Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be going through some candle making steps and techniques. Here I just have a simple video of me making a few candles for my business. I'm also on the phone at the time while I was recording, so you'll see me periodically look off to my side. But yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so after I put my gloves on, I'm just getting all my jars and everything set up. So I got most of my candle making supplies from Candle Science. I'll have everything that I used in this video listed down in the description with the links. But here I'm pulling out my wicks. These are the wicks that were recommended for this size jar, and I used these wicks before, but for a different jar, but they worked perfectly for my other set of jars. Those are for my smaller candles, but these are the first time I'm using these jars, so I'll tell you how they go after I light one myself. But I'm just preparing those to put them into the jars. And I have some wick tabs, which you're about to see me pull out, and if you're starting candle making or you're interested in making candles, I would highly suggest getting wick tabs. Wick tabs are basically these little circular stickers that are sticky on both ends, and as you can see, I just stick one to the bottom of my wick and then I can place it at the bottom of my jar. But they're very easy to use. They're super inexpensive. I believe they're like, you can get like a set of 100 for less than $10. And I just love these. I have absolutely no complaints. But at the end of this video, you also see me run out of wick tabs. So I just went back to like a really simple method. Is where you just use the wax to adhere the bottom of the wick to the jar, which also works, but the wick tabs work better, and I highly recommend you getting them. These are one of my favorite candle making supplies, and they'll also be in the description of this video. And now I'm just gonna fast forward to me when I finish adding all the wicks to the jars. Hi, so not sure exactly why I showed you the bag. You couldn't see what was in it, but here I have some of these stabilizers, I guess you would call them. I'm not sure the exact name for them, but they basically hold the wick in place to center them. You can do this with other things like getting two pens or wrapping your wick around a popsicle stick. There's a lot of methods to do these, but these were really cheap and inexpensive as well, like the wick tabs, and they're really useful. And you can get a good amount of them for not too expensive of a price. I'll also have these linked down in the description. But here I'm just going to be setting these in the jars. And also, you'll see the above view soon, but they leave me a good amount of space to be able to pour the wax, but still keep the wick stable in the center, which is really nice. And these are also one of my favorite candle making tools that I love. I was born in Animus, North Dakota. Next, I'm just showing you one of the fragrances I'm using. So the first set of candles I'm making are scented in bamboo and coconut. Right now I'm just preparing to pour my wax on my scale and get ready to melt it. Here's a good rule of thumb, and I guess my first point. Also, if you're wondering what wax I use 464 golden brand wax, I believe it's called. It's a soy wax. Soy wax in general is kind of hard to use, I guess. It's not the hardest thing, but here, let me explain. So when you're making soy candles, there's a lot of things that can go wrong that you can't really control. Like some candles may have a lot of sinkholes at the top, or some may just look funny while they set. It's not really, it doesn't make the candle defective, but it's more of just like a beauty thing when you're making candles, but you can't really control it. And when it comes to soy wax, but it's not, and it happens in just more things than soy wax, but soy wax specifically, it happens a lot, and I find it happens a lot in this wax too. But this is just one of the waxes I've been using since I first started making candles, and I've gotten used to it, and I found ways to not completely counter it, but to make it less happen less often. But yeah, that's my little thing on soy wax. But also after I melted my wax, I just measured out how much wax I'm going to need for my candle jars. Also keep in mind, wax, I had a little index card next to me for taking down notes for while I was writing. But something to keep in mind is wax expands when melted. So this happened to me my first batch, so that's why I had a little bit extra. I was making about 12-ounce candles, and I was melting 12 ounces of hard wax, but when I melted it, it actually ended up coming to like 13-14 ounces. So just keep that in mind, that you may have to add a little bit less hard wax just to get the right amount, or not to waste any wax. Also, a rule of thumb that I use with all of my fragrance oils is I always do 1 ounce of fragrance oil per pound. This is a really good rule of thumb for any wax or any fragrance oil. Also, different waxes have certain fragrance loads. So the amount that a fragrance load is basically the amount of fragrance wax can hold. I think the wax I use is about 2%, but I just like to use that rule of thumb because it goes good with most waxes and whatever fragrances. I get a good hot and cold throw whenever I go by this rule. So I'm just going by that 1 ounce of fragrance oil per pound rule that I've been going by. Another thing I want to mention is here's where this 135 degrees thing come in. Also, when you add your fragrance oil into your wax, you want to make sure to check your flash point on your fragrance oil. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure on my bottle, if you rewind, you'll see that I had a flash point on it. I'll also put up an image somewhere right here where you can see the flash point more clearer, and a Google definition, but I can just tell you what it means off the top of my head. A flash point for a candle is basically the point where the fragrance won't start to burn off. So for example, I have a fragrance that I'm going to make later in the video, Caramel Perlinis. The flash point for that fragrance oil is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So you wouldn't want to add that fragrance oil if your wax is hotter than 212 degrees, because then you can risk the fragrance oil being burnt off, and you won't get a good hot or cold throw than you could get if you added it below its flash point. My recommended temperature for adding any colorants like liquid candle dye or fragrance oil to your candle is about 180 degrees. Most fragrance oils flash points are 180 degrees or 80 degrees below. So if you just wait till your wax is 180 degrees, you usually won't have a problem. But some of them are weird and they're actually like 162, but you just want to keep that in mind and make sure whatever it is, you want to basically be below that or at that number when you add that fragrance oil in. Another thing I wanted to say is, for this wax, or all soy waxes in general, a good temperature to pour your wax into your jar is at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why I held that index card up earlier with 130 degrees Fahrenheit on it. This is because your wax is at the point where it's getting ready to solidify, and like all your ingredients should be blended in at this point, and it will be able to just contain the strongest hot and cold throw after you pour it into your container. So I recommend pouring your wax into your jar after you reach 135 degrees. And here you see I'm pouring the first batches of candles right into my jar. My wax is 135 degrees Fahrenheit. I made sure to check. You also want to constantly keep an eye on your wax, whether it's while it's cooling down, because you don't want to make sure you get too below or too over anything, and you just want to be very precise, but make sure to have fun with it, because that's what candle making is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. It's time consuming, but the end results are great, phenomenal, and you'll have yourself a lovely candle at the end. When I first started making candles, I'll insert some images of my old ones. I didn't know anything about degrees or like what temperature to add my fragrance oils and stuff like that. So I would always either go above the wax load, which means that when you go above your wax load to fragrance load, your wax can actually separate from your fragrance, and your fragrance oil will float at the bottom of your candle, and that's not good because that's not safe for a candle to work like that. So that's why you have to be very specific and just pay attention to the degrees and what your instructions are for your wax and your fragrances, and just be aware of what you're doing when you're making candles. But after you get the hang of it, becomes super easy. I'll actually create a quick Google Doc maybe, and I'll put it at the end of this in the description of this video, or at the end of this video, that you can look at with an overview of all the notes and just simple instructions you want to follow whenever you're making candles, specifically for soy wax. I have never used paraffin wax, I believe it's called, which is synthetic wax. I have never used it, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how things would work for that, but I can definitely tell you how to use the 464 Golden Brand wax that I use, or just some rules for soy wax in general, as it's like about the same rule of thumb for every soy wax to soy wax. And yeah, I'll be back with a few more pointers, but here you can quickly enjoy me melting and making some more candles.
Long time ago, see? And now I'm lucky enough to be here with you.
Yeah, but what's happened in between? Yeah, what has happened?
Well, it went pretty much like this.
If you want a Christmas day, I can give you a cup of cocoa. Even if it was cold, babe, don't worry, I'll be there for you. Every night I see you going down there, baby, you might feel like curtain hiding down there.
I just quickly want to mention right here that you see that my thermometer says 133 degrees. That's okay if you're like 3-4 degrees off. It's okay when it comes to your pouring, as long as your wax isn't completely hardened, but you shouldn't be pouring at like 120 degrees when your wax says it hardened. Usually whoever your wax supplier is, it will tell you what temperature your wax will begin to harden. You don't want to like go right next to that temperature, because that's not good. You'll just be pouring really hard wax and it will clump and things like that. So you want to, if I recommend 135 degrees, but if you're 134, 133, that's also okay. But not for the flash point. Don't confuse that with the flash point. You don't ever want to pour above your flash point, but if you pour your flash point degrees or lower, then that's fine. Also, my thermometer that I use is a laser one. I love it. I've been using it for about 2 years now. I got it off of Amazon. It's super inexpensive and I love it oh so much. It's literally, I use it for so many things. I use it when I make cold processed soaps, candles. I use it for some household things too. It's just overall a super wonderful item. One of my favorite tools to use when I'm doing whatever I'm doing in my business. I highly recommend you get one of those as well. And that will also be in the description of this video, along with all my other things that I'm using. Or most of my other things. I can't list everything, but most of them.
And so much worries you were holding inside of you. The scars and tears will dry, but you'll be fine. Don't worry, babe. I'll light up the candles for you. I will say that my Christmas stands for
Hello?
you. 내가 항상 네 곁에 있어줄 순 없지만 내 생각을 해주길 바래.
Hey, I also want to just quickly add in here, if you ever wondered how to like color your candles, something that I recommend you getting. Also, overall, you'll see that I mentioned Candle Science a lot in this video. I think Candle Science is a great brand for any person who wants to either start selling candles, just wants to make candles for their homes or for friends. Candle Science is such a great brand. They ship super fastly. All their items has like a lot of information. You can find out literally anything you need. You can like, they have their own candle recipes you can get off of them yourself, and you can just, it's a really good website. It's really beginner friendly, and even for big businesses. I know a lot of small businesses whose small businesses are pretty big in candle making, and they use Candle Science. Candle Science is overall just a really great place to buy your candle supplies, and that's why I just keep mentioning them. But if you ever wondered how to color your wax, I've been on YouTube. I've seen things like, oh, add Crayola crayons, or things like that, or like add mica. If something you want to be wary of is adding mica or Crayola wax to your thing to color wax to your wax to color it. Something that can happen with when you add mica or say Crayola crayon wax to your candle wax is it can actually clog your wick, which sounds very weird, but hear me out. It's basically when your wick, when you know how wicks like will burn down and it will melt the wax, your wick will struggle to do that, and it can be an actual danger problem when having your customer, whoever is lighting your candle, light your candle, because when a wick is clogged, a few things can happen. One of these things being is that your flame can get starved, which means it will put your flame out constantly, so your wick won't be able to keep that light, which means then your wax will potentially just put your candle light out, and what's the point of having a candle that won't light? Another thing that can happen is you can have some irregularities in your wick burning. It may be flickery, it may be really big, too small, things like that. And that's why you usually want to avoid adding Crayola crayons or mica to your wax. It's okay with adding a little bit of mica. I've seen that, but you don't want to add too much. I have never used mica on my candle personally, but I do know some people who have, and they seem to not have a problem with it, but I do not recommend it personally. What I do recommend, though, is getting some candle dye. Candle Science offers two types of dyes. They offer brick dyes, which is basically a wax with colored wax already, and you just chip away this brick of colored wax into your wax, and you can color it with this brick, or you can use what I'm using in this video, which are liquid dyes. Liquid dyes aren't that expensive. They're about $6 for an ounce, which may seem small, but trust me, when I tell you this liquid dye is super concentrated, and I have been using about 1 ounce of red dye for about 2 years, and I made over about 100 candles with it. It's honestly great investment. And you have a lot of fun with it. You can get different shades. It's super concentrated, so if you add about 3 drops, you can add about, I believe, if you're on Candle Science and you look at the liquid dyes, they show you about how much 1 drop does to a whole pound of wax, and it gives you like a good medium toned red. They have a lot of different colors like green, yellow, orange, hunter's green. There's a lot of different varieties, and then you can even mix up the wax colors. I did that in one of these videos for one of these candles I'm making. I didn't put the candle in this video, but you might see it at the end when I do a little clip of all my candles that I made. I mixed red with some yellow, and you see that I got this nice pretty orangey color, and you can just play around with the colors and the shades, but it's a much safer coloring technique for your wax rather than Crayola crayons or using mica. And that's my recommendation, and that's what I wanted to say about adding colorants to your wax. Here I'm just wrapping up. You can see my candles that I have already made and wicked. I didn't make all of these in this video, so I think you only see me make bamboo and coconut and strawberry guava, which was the red and white candles in this video. But you'll see all my candles to the right, and I'm just cleaning up my area. So here's a little fast forward of me putting away all my stuff. Also, I didn't put the final finished look of my candles at the end. I'm actually going to be doing another part to this, and that's going to be preparing and labeling your candles for packaging and packaging as well in one video, because this video was kind of really long for me to edit and such that, so I'm going to be doing this in 2 parts. But yeah, you're going to see the little fast forward I do at the end, and I hope you guys tune in for the next part. But those were some fun candle making tips with me. I hope this helps you. Let me know down in the comments below if this helped or not, or if you have any questions at all. I will be looking to answer them. And I want to thank you guys for all the love and support. And yeah, I love you guys, and bye. Enjoy the rest of the video.
서툴지만 빼곡한 편지와 slow